All right, so it is Friday, I think the 28th or 29th. We're going to do just a review of this OT facilitator doc, and the purpose of this review is just to get feedback. I went through like a million different versions of how to set up OT for when we have an ISA, and these are not the three versions I'm going to go over with you aren't necessarily what we need to do, but there's so many variables involved that I just wanted to show you three options so that you could start to think what your feedback is on which version you lean towards, and then we can kind of modify it from there. So the purpose of this is to think about the future of OT, like what we should try first that would be more permanent when we have an ISA. So think February, kind of February and beyond. And this would be, just pay attention to the top half of this, which is from rows 1 through 24. You don't need to worry about the showing assist stuff. And you can see there's 3 tabs here, so 3 different versions of the schedule. And so what we're looking at is basically, in this version of the schedule, we would have agents, we label them agents 1 through 4, and of course with Cindy we'll have 5. On OT from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., Monday through Thursday, and then an ISA staggered, so we'd have the ISA on from 11 to 4 on Monday and 11 to 4 on Wednesday, and then we would have an agent on 4 to 7, a late shift on Monday and Wednesday. And then the ISA would be on a long shift, 11 to 7 on Tuesday and Fridays. And then on Fridays, on Tuesday and Thursday. And then on Friday, we have agents on all day. So 8 to 1 and 1 to 6. And Saturday, all day, 8 to 1 and 1 to 6. And then Sunday, 11 to 7, the ISA is on, so agents don't work Sundays. And then, of course, in the evenings, it goes to Shark Tank and Call Blast, which means that the first agent to claim the lead gets it up until 8 in the morning. And that also happens here in the weekends as well. So that just repeats itself, and I did 4 weeks of that. And then what it says on the key down here is that in this version, it says who each person is. So sales D is Drew, showing A is Andrew, and ISA is Victoria. The rules on this are after showing agent and sales director are filled in, there are 8 shifts each week. And so the sales director and the showing agent get 1 shift. It doesn't have to be the shifts on here, but they would just get 1 shift. And then there's 8 shifts left. And the way to fill out the OT schedule would be to start on the weekends and make sure each agent has 2 weekends off and 2 weekends with 1 shift. So between Sinjin, Brittany, John, and Sarah, they would each, you just do the weekend, so they each have 2 weekends off per month. And then next, of the 6 shifts left, Sarah and Brittany would get 2 of those shifts each. So that leaves 1 shift for John and Sinjin, other than a weekend shift. So essentially, here's the summary. Each agent only works 2 weekends a month. John and Sinjin always get either 1 or 2 shifts per week, no more. Sarah and Brittany either get 2 or 3 shifts per week, again, no more, and it depends if they're on that weekend or not. And then seller internet leads and expires calls get routed same as other leads, except for seller inbound calls like Radio 60 Touch would get routed to the ISA when the ISA is on, and the admin when the ISA is off. And then this is the rules checklist. So if you fill out OT schedule using this facilitator, after you're filled it out, you can just go through and ask these questions of yourself. Is the OT schedule compliant or not compliant? So I just had trouble following these rules until I just filled it out, and then I would ask myself these questions until all 4 were compliant, and then I knew each agent was being treated as fairly as possible. And then these are the action items once the document is filled out. So that is one option of how to do OT. The upside is I guess, with this version, agents never work Sundays. They only work 2 evening shifts a week. And, there's 8 shifts available per week. Option 2, the downside of this option is that there are a lot of rules to create in the OT routing. I mean, once they're created, it's done, but it is just a bit of a heavy lift to create all those rules. Option 2 is basically that the agents are on. In option 1, the ISA's work schedule is 10:30 to 7 Monday through Thursday, and 10:30 to 7 so 10:30 to 7 Sunday through Thursday is her work schedule. Option 2 is the ISA is, so the agents are working on shift 8 a.m. to 1:30 Monday through Thursday, and then they're taking 2 full shifts Friday and Saturday. So 8 a.m. to 1:30 and 1:30 to 7 on Friday and Saturday. And then the ISA is working evening shift. And so that would be 1:30 to 7 Monday through Thursday, and all day on Sunday, 11 to 7. And then, of course, again, in the evening hours, the calls go to Shark Tank and Call Blast, just like before. Basically, on this one, the ISA would again work 11 to 7. It's just they would not be on OT until a little later in their shift. And so essentially this version gives the agents less shifts. So it gives it, I think once the sales director and showing agent is filled in, instead of there being 8 shifts left, there's 6 shifts left for OT. So here, John and Sinja would never have more than 1 shift a week. And the Sarah and Brittany would always get 2 shifts a week, as opposed to 1 to 2 for John and Sinjin and 2 to 3 for Brittany and Sarah. So there's just less shifts per week. Basically the ISA is essentially covering more OT time than in option 1. The downside of that is the more the ISA covers, the better they need to be at it, because if they are not doing well at all, it could totally damage the team, because such a significant portion of the leads would be unconverted. The other issue is that, if the ISA is handling a ton of inbound stuff, theoretically the agents, when you're doing your morning review, they could be like, well, I got, 3 new appointments set. And they're like, yay, but they didn't do anything to set anything. So they're not really the ones even setting the appointments. So they're just kind of showing up, getting through their lead calls, but they're not hungry to set appointments. And so that's the scary part. If the ISA is setting all the inbound appointments, the more that happens, the more the agents can show up and just, have a silver spoon, and not, you kind of lose that hunger. So that is the cadence of this one. Another option is, basically that the ISA is working Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30. Sunday through Thursday. And basically they're again working all day Sunday, so the agents are not working Sundays, but they're working business hours on. So their actual work schedule is like 8:30 to 5, and they're just on shift during their business hours, and then the agents are on shift in the evenings, and then same with Friday and Saturday. So here again, there's only 6 shifts left for the agents. So, on the rules down here, John and Sinja would only get 1 shift per week, and Brittany and Sarah would get 2 shifts per week. It's just that they would take the afternoon shift. So in summary, in none of these, the agents, in all of these, the agents don't work Sundays. In the latter 2, the agents work, there's less shifts available. The ISA is taking a little bit more. The other thing with the latter two is that the rules are a little bit easier. Um, the only thing that gives me pause about kind of any and all of these, I guess, is is there a point where the ISA is just taking, like, should they just be focusing more on outbound business and letting the agents still take the inbound business, or not to overcomplicate it, which I tend to do, but should they maybe be taking just inbound calls? Do you use this schedule, um, or perhaps this schedule, and you let them handle the evenings, but they're essentially taking inbound calls, but not all the internet leads. The one thing that I know about the the internet leads is that our agents convert them into new appointments right now, and I don't know how well we do on sign calls. So there's this other option of letting, and I know the agents don't like working evenings, so the other option is letting all internet leads and sign calls go to the ISA from like 4:30 to 7, but let the ISA work this shift, and perhaps have them take all inbound calls from like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., but only internet leads from 4:30 to 7, and let the agents take the internet leads from 8 a.m. to 4:30. And the agents would never get really calls unless it was on call blast. So there's a couple other versions of this we could outline, but ultimately I always try to answer the question of, what's best to enrich lives. So what's best to enrich our clients' lives, meaning they get somebody when they inquire on a property. That's, point number one. A lot of times we get inbound calls and they're just not being answered. Point number two is, what's best for our agents. I know they take appointments sometimes in the late afternoons and evenings, and it's harder for them to get leads handled well, sign calls or internet leads, particularly on Sundays or, in the late afternoons and evenings, whereas they're maybe better able to handle leads in time blocks when they have less appointments, which is in the mornings because they're here anyway, or in the early afternoons. So with all that in mind, take a look at this and give me your feedback as to what some of your thoughts are after you have a chance to look at it.